Good morning to anyone that's watching. Lewis and I are here with our cuppas. I've got a cup of tea. Lou, what have you got? Costa.
Staying
What's your
true.
Costa of choice?
Latte,
Any
which is
syrups or anything in there?
no, just bland and
No.
plain and pale and pasty, much like me. Just
Yeah.
gone for the plain
Not
latte.
even vanilla. Not even vanilla, just
Yeah,
plain.
no, not even
Right.
vanilla, just completely plain.
So good morning to everyone that's tuned in, all one of you. I saw Harry Heslin was signed up, so hopefully we've got one viewer, and that might be Harry Heslin. So if you're there, Harry, good morning. Good morning to anyone else that stumbles past this later. So just to introduce this, I wanted to do some laid back lives, a few mornings a week, just to get people talking about lead generation, because for some reason, well, we know the reasons why, but it's like the Voldemort of LinkedIn at the moment. You can't try and network with somebody without them automatically assuming that you're trying to sell them something. So everyone's trying to sell things to people on LinkedIn, but when someone tries to sell them something, they don't like it. So the aim of this LinkedIn Live is just to have a laid back chat about lead generation, how it's changing, and trying to get the horrible negative stigma that's around it to go. So I am joined this morning by not only a very good friend of mine and somebody that I've known for like over 10 years, but also somebody that has genuinely like had an incredible growth journey in sales, outbound lead generation and marketing, and is now the VP of marketing for Staff Circle. So Lou, do you want to introduce yourself to people watching that might not know you?
Yeah, hi everyone. I say everyone. Hi, all one person, maybe more. So my name's Lewis. So I've known Jodie for I think we worked out the other day. It's just over 11 years, um, which is crazy. So yeah, like Jodie said, I've been in sales for near on 20 years now. But then more recently, have made the full switch to the dark side, known as marketing. So now head up marketing at a company called Staff Circle. And I think Jodie and I have been talking a while about doing this, and obviously watched the one that you did with James and Adam, and thought they were great. So excited for today's chat.
Good. And we have got more than one person watching. We've got
I know we've
Chanel
got two.
O'Hagan. What an absolute legend. Anyone that is looking for an absolute superstar outbound lead genner, Chanel O'Hagan is the one. She doesn't stop chatting. Very difficult to manage, but she's a ledge. And we've got Mark as well. So morning to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So Lou, to get straight into it, I'm going to ask you similar questions that I asked Adam and James. So the first one is, do you believe the negative reaction to lead generation messages is due to the oversaturation of lead gen tactics on LinkedIn? And how's that affected the way that people approach networking on this platform?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think like both Adam and James made really good points. Adam's point around the kind of ICP focus, I think, is critical, and James's point around adding value as well. But I think there's two things. I think one is people are naturally scared to be sold to. I think if you think about how even you react when you get a cold call at
Yeah,
home and it's like O2 or
yeah,
Virgin, the minute they say the company, you hang up and you throw your phone, and it's like you're in this child state of fear that somebody's just tried to sell to you. Um, and I think the other side of it is just down to, and I'm sure this would be unpopular, but really bad pitching, just really
yeah,
bad prospecting.
yeah,
Like I get sold to all the time, and some of it's really good and some of it's really innovative, and I respond. And but I'd say 80-90% of it is really bad. Like on LinkedIn, on email, on phones. Like I get people calling me by the wrong job title, wrong department, wrong function, trying to sell me
yeah,
stuff that's completely irrelevant. It's just that kind of the way that the buyers now operate has evolved massively, and not many sellers. There are some really good, strong sellers out there for sure, and some great companies out there. But there's still a lot of companies that haven't evolved their kind of lead generation tactics to kind of fall in line with where we are at the moment.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think that's had a huge impact, because sales is the taboo word, like
yeah,
especially
it is.
on LinkedIn. But what I like is the fact that everybody, not everyone, that's unfair. A lot of people on LinkedIn have a problem with being sold to,
Yeah,
but almost everybody on LinkedIn is selling, whether they're upfront and honest about it or whether they're just trying to subtly do it. Like everybody is trying to sell a product or service or themselves in terms of kind of like their own individual personal brand. But I think we just got to be more honest about it
Yeah.
and make it good again.
Yeah. Do you know what? Obviously, as a one-woman band, like there's only so much that I can do on my own, and I've got no desire and want to hire anybody. Like I just want to have, I've had my days of managing people, you of which were one of them at a time.
Put you off for
And
life.
yeah, no, I'm joking. No, I love managing you. You're a little bit of a pain, but I think we're a good duo, you and me. But no, what I was going to say is, I mentioned this on the last one with Adam, but one of the things that I really wanted to do was like I really want to do more networking. And when I went on my LinkedIn the other day, I was looking at my connections, and I had nearly 5,000 connections, and I was like, do you know what? I hardly know any of these people. Obviously, I've got people that I used to work with, but other people that have connected with me or I've connected with them over time, we've never actually had a conversation. And I thought, I want to pick a pool of these people and I really want to talk to them. So I went and used a bit of automation software. So whilst I personally typed the message, I used a bit of software to help me send that message to I think there was like just over 200 people that I wanted to speak to in my network to get to know them more to help me. I'm not ashamed to share that and say that, but it seems like there's a like a real shame of admitting that. But I'm a one-woman band. If I was to sit there, and first of all, it's going to take me probably would have taken me like 4 or 5 hours to go through, if not more, to go through and send that same message to each individual person. And I am against using the same copy if you're trying to sell something, but I was trying to network. So the message doesn't change. It's like, hey, I'm a new business owner based in Portsmouth. The last 12 months have been an absolute roller coaster. Here's a little bit more about me. I deal with, I'm in the arena of outbound lead generation, been in it for 20 years. The replies I've got back from that have genuinely like gobsmacked me. So I've had some people that are like, not interested, no thanks, don't want to talk about lead gen. I even had somebody this morning who I've actually booked a call in with, but they wrote back and said, I know you've used a templated message for that. And I wrote back and said, well, it's not a templated message. I typed it, but yes, I've used automation to help me. But surely I would be stupid to sit and spend, 5 or 6 hours as a solo business owner to type the same message when a bit of software can help me send it quicker. So there's just such a big stigma around it, but it's because people get it wrong, in my opinion. Like you said, you do get these messages, and I get them literally. I think I get more of those in my email inbox than my spam than I do actual emails. But it's because a lot of people are doing it wrong. So they do just genuinely send a connection request, and then the next minute you get a sales pitch, and 9 times out of 10 it's not even relevant. But if they built a little bit of rapport with you first, then there might be an opportunity. So moving on to kind of the next question, but in around that area, how do you think the culture of networking on LinkedIn needs to evolve to kind of almost counteract the negative connotations that are associated with lead generation?
So I think there's two things to unpick with what you just said. I think one, for me, automation is good, and has its place, but I think there's a lot of organizations that rely too heavily on it.
Yeah.
I think naturally what happens is over the course of time is we find people and organizations find stuff that works, and then all of a sudden it gets absolutely battered and everybody's doing it like all the time. I'll give you loads of examples. Video. There was a time when video marketing or video prospecting was like relatively new and only a few people were doing it, and they were doing it really well. And now it's like loads of people are now using video. Automation was relatively like at a time was quite new. People are now using that, and you're right. It's about how they do it and how they use it. I think back now, I've got someone, I won't name names, but I've got someone who's trying to get hold of me on LinkedIn. They are 100% using automated software, and I know that because every single day, the same day, like same time every week, they endorse me for something or they view my profile. They send me messages that are about 4 paragraphs long. They've sent me calendar links, and it's like that's not going to engage me, because all you're doing with every interaction is asking me for something, and not once within that has there been any form of personalization as to how you're going to add value to me, which is key.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the culture of networking, I think it's going to be a really challenging one to change. I think people do need to be more open to networking. I think if you look back at this past year, a lot of organizations from a revenue standpoint have struggled, and what they found is that ecosystem led growth has been key.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah.
kind of leaders in marketing and sales are looking at it, and networking and creating partnerships is a huge thing. And statistically speaking, if you network with enough people, some of them are going to add value, right? Like those people that you're networking with or trying to, maybe they won't buy from you and maybe you won't buy from them, but
Yeah.
maybe you'll add value some other way. Maybe they've got another challenge and you know somebody, or
Yeah.
maybe you've got a challenge and they know somebody. I think it just has to be a really clear line about giving people a chance. But yeah, like if you're positioning it as I want to network with you, don't then slap them with an 18 paragraph pitch straight away,
Yeah.
because then your first interaction with them is basically a lie, which is kind of where we've got to now. People are just sick of being pitched all the time.
Yeah, yeah, we are, and I even say that in in the area that I do, people that, and it's actually yesterday I had a really good networking call actually with a lady called Leanne who was amazing and gave me some really good insights, but it actually like made me think, God, maybe where I'm going wrong is the word lead generation. Like maybe that's not even a word that should be used anymore. Like because it honestly is like a swear word. Like you mention it and it's like, oh, don't use that. Like you'd probably get better greeting if you just opened up a message with like a swear. I wouldn't suggest trying that, by the way. Anyway, so on to things that are going to help people. So like I know that we've got Mark watching actually, who Mark and I have networked recently. And Mark's starting his business. Well, he's already started it, but he's launching it in April of next year. So for people that are new, that are starting a business, but also for people that have got existing businesses, like we've got Carol on as well, who's a director in like kind of business development. What strategies have you found most effective for engaging potential leads on LinkedIn? Because one of the things that I find really interesting about you, and we bore our girlfriends to death when we have dinner because Lewis and I talk work constantly and they're just sat there like, oh, shut up, can you talk about something else?
Because we're so excited.
Yeah, because we're so exciting. But yeah, what obviously you've come from, you were a telemarketer, so you've been on the front line making telemarketing calls. You weren't ever somebody that would absolutely smash 20 calls out every hour, but the calls that you would make would be decent calls. From there, you went into leading a team, setting up campaigns for outbound lead generation. Then for a little while, you were leading a department. And then from there, you went into a sales director role. And now you've gone into a VP marketing. And one of the things that I'm super excited to talk about with anyone that will listen at the moment, actually, is how, again, this is something you and I talk about a lot, is that sales and marketing used to be very different and very separate. Whereas now there's almost like a massive blend in between sales and marketing. And Adam and I were talking about that when we had our live. Like it's almost like sales and marketing need to work hand in hand more than ever. So with all of that in mind, what advice could you give to people that are watching this that's going to help them with lead generation and kind of educate them and give them some good tips?
So I guess the first thing is, and I'll tip my hat to Adam because I'm not going to take credit because I'm just going to plagiarize what he said. ICP, it is of critical focus. Like know
What is
who
ICP?
you should be targeting.
I don't know.
So your ideal customer profile. So like when you've got your product or your solution or your service, like who are you there to benefit? Who do you want to target? What is your ideal customer? And be uncomfortably narrow, be super focused. Don't try and be something to everyone because you'll end up being nothing to anyone. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's so true. Like
I'm going to clip
simplify
that bit.
Please do. Simplify your messaging. And then I think and when I say simplify your messaging, like we're going through this process here, like position your product, service, solution in a way that people get and understand, and it's easy for them to get and understand. Like you should be able to describe your product to a 5-year-old or your mate in the pub, and they should get it instantly, and that should correlate throughout all of your messaging.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing as well is understanding that so much of the buyer journey is done already before you potentially speak to them. Like you need to challenge their status quo and make them realize that the way that they're doing things right now is no longer sustainable and this is why, and then really add value to them. It's not all about going for the kill straight away. You know, one thing that was said to me before, which was stuck for me for a while, is in sales, like you got to go slow to go fast. So it's all about at the beginning of the process, you go relatively slow to then speed up the end of the process. And that beginning is all about how do you add value? I think James mentioned it as well, right? Like one of the things that we're doing here is when we've got like really good content, like great stuff, like how we can help people, just give it away. Like, ungate it. Don't gate all of your content. Stop asking people for something every single time. Like, give them something and get their feedback. Get them to interact with your brand. Like, because if they've heard of you and if they're engaging with your stuff and they see you as a subject matter expert, they'll be more inclined to hold a conversation with you.
Or recommend you to other people, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And it might, you know, the whole, I know you mentioned the 20 calls an hour, and look, I never made 20 calls an hour, but my general feeling is if you sit there and make 200 calls in one day, 195 of them are going to be pretty poor calls. Like you have to, less is more and quality is important. Like research your prospects, understand how you're going to add value, what's going on in their business, what's going on in their world, how long have they been there, what are their personal goals and drivers, how are you going to elevate them within their own organization, how does your product or solution align with them. And maybe at this point in time it doesn't, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't still be trying to add value. You know, if you've got a piece of content that's been created and it's landing well with their peers, share it with them. Don't ask for anything. Just say, look, this has been landing really well with some of your peers. Thought I'd share this with you. Then see what the kind of appetite is. See if they react to that. See if they, you know, you can't sell to everyone. That's just a matter of fact. And then your other bit about the sales and marketing thing, like I'm probably, people say I'm biased now because I'm in the dark side of marketing, but it's about understanding that marketing's not the naughty kid in the corner that you only call upon when you need something. Like marketing needs sales to succeed, and sales need marketing to succeed. Like use each other and work together. Like here we've squashed it. We don't have a sales team and a marketing team. We have a revenue team because ultimately the two need to work together. And marketing shouldn't stop just because sales have started with their meetings. Like how can we support with social proofing, case studies, template, anything that can help that buyer on their journey? I think the companies that will win will realize and have realized that there is a intrinsic connection between sales and marketing, and they're not trying to separate them. And they're not targeting them on different things.
I totally agree. And I think I was telling you before,
talked for so much, I don't know if I answered your question. So.
No, you did. You made some really good points.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, you made some great points.
Wonderful.
So I was saying to you before we came on this about how I've got a bit of a kind of content day today. So I'm making some things, and I was talking about how I'm going to make a like a bit of an educational video after this about lead generation strategies. And I love an analogy, and you know that anyone that knows me knows I liken things to things. But I think like your lead generation strategy, marketing strategy, whatever you want to call it, like there's tons of different names for them out there. It's the same as having your car MOT'd, right? Every single year you get a reminder that says, right, your car needs to be MOT'd at this point of the year, and it needs to have all these things checked. Yet people don't do that with their kind of pre-sales, like lead generation strategy. They'll just, you know, keep it going and it'll keep running. And it's like driving your car and you start hearing something tapping and something's not quite right, and you just ignore it. You're like, no, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Then one day it absolutely like just, you know, conks out. Like your lead generation strategy is the engine behind your business, you know, whether it's inbound leads and outbound leads, whether it's LinkedIn, emails, calls, a combination of all of them, Google Ads, Instagram, whatever it is you're doing, you have to review that strategy regularly to keep on top of it and make sure that things are working. And in my experience, it's something that actually gets left. And even in big corporates, not just like SMEs, like they'll set something up to do lead generation, they'll just leave it. And it's not until the kind of like senior management get together and talk about the revenue, they're like, well, what's going on from this? We're not getting anything in from this. And then it's like, well, the person doing it is probably rubbish. But it's not necessarily the person doing it, it's the whole process that goes behind it. Like, how are you doing it and what's the strategy? And since starting my own business, one of the biggest things that I've been shocked by, I always, when I network with people, I'll always say to them, like, what is your lead generation strategy? And I think I've spoken to one person genuinely in the last probably like 3 months in these conversations that knows what their lead generation strategy is. Everyone else is like, actually two, because you're one of them, and there's someone else I can think of, and they'll be like, well, we just, we've got this business development team, and they just reach out and build relationships. And I'm like, great, well, what's the target for those people? And they're like, well, they don't have a target, they just need to create relationships. And like, well, okay. It's just crazy, like the way things think. And when your car's broken and you need a mechanic to look at it, you can't fix it yourself sometimes, and that's okay. It's the same with your lead generation strategy. Like, if it's not working, it's not something to be ashamed of if you can't work out what you need to do differently. And that's where networking can help you. Like, this week I've had some great calls with some new people, like a guy called James and I networked yesterday. We've been connected for ages and we've commented on each other's things a little bit. We had a call and we had so much in common, and we started talking about things, and I gave him some tips, and and I even gave him access to my workshop, like, for free. And he was like, "What? Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Because I want to help you. Like, we're all in this." But yeah, anyway, I went off a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, it just shocks me.
No, I think it's true.
Yeah, that don't have a strategy. It's just absolutely crazy.
I think it's true, but I think there's three things that I would unpick from what you just said. And I think the first one is absolutely regularly review your strategy and what you're doing, but also don't make impulsive changes just because something's not working straight away. Like, when you're setting up the strategy, really map out what's the goal, what are the insights that it's heading in the right direction, and what are the measures for success, and regularly review it. And if you feel like there's some things like within your cadence, or there's some aspects of it that aren't working, make minor iterations, because if you change things too often, you're always starting from a standing still. And if you change everything at once, you never know what bit you changed that actually fixed it. So that's the first bit. I think the second bit is actually there's four, not three. The second bit is making sure that you don't think there's such a thing as a silver bullet, because there's not. There's tiny silver fragments, and you have to get all of them together, and that will build you the silver bullet. There is no like quick fix for pipeline or lead generation. It's not a case anymore if you can just go, so I've just seen Adam's commented, so I'll pick on Adam. You can't just go, hey Adam, go make 40 calls and book 10 meetings. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not like that. The world's changed. Like, you need to have a kind of multi-channel approach to be able to have successful lead generation. And then I guess the third one would be invest in your team, invest in the setup, be that training, coaching, software, tech support. Like, make sure that you're not just picking somebody because they've got, oh, Lewis has got spare capacity, so do me a favor and go get 5 meetings. Like, you need somebody who's built for it, really. Like, it's a unique capability to be able to handle rejection so much, and be able to keep yourself motivated, and like build a connection with somebody that makes them want to talk to your business. So find the right person, and invest in that person to set them up for success. And then the fourth one is, leading to your original point, networking. Like, even if it's not a case of like speaking with somebody every day, and I know it sounds like I'm picking on Adam, but he's probably a really good example. Like, I've got Adam on LinkedIn. I rarely speak. I don't think we've ever really spoke, to be honest with you, on LinkedIn. But he posts so much useful content all the time. And I'm always watching it. Like, whenever I see it on there, I'll watch it because it's useful. And I've stolen stuff from it. And, there's loads of people that I watch on LinkedIn that I will follow, and their stuff is really useful, and we'll incorporate some of it, and we won't with some of it else. And, understand that nobody knows everything. So you can learn all the time. So I think networking is a huge piece. And if people are put off just because they think, oh God, someone's going to sell to me, like, every business needs lead generation. Otherwise they wouldn't survive. It's just a matter of fact. The thing is, every business needs good lead generation, not the rubbish stuff that we see so much of.
Yeah. Yeah. And another interesting thing, I guess, to talk about, and it's probably a whole other conversation, but it's like when you're looking to recruit for somebody that will do some form of business development for you, like what attributes would you look at? And I know for a fact, if I was now, I used to recruit tons of people weekly, 2-3 people per week, at one point when we were running, 70-seat call center. But I would look for different things now than I used to look for back then, because not too much, but I think people are so focused on, finding somebody that's got, sales experience, and that's what they're looking for. Like, how good are they at closing? But one of the biggest things that I've seen, and in some of the some things I've seen have been the people that are go for the jugular, and that maybe do make a high volume of calls. They don't actually do as well. Like the people that are doing well now, are the people like Adam. Back in the day, Adam and I used to work together. I was Adam's team leader at one point, and Adam wasn't ever somebody that would smash out 20 calls every hour. Whereas the rest of the team, not the rest of them, most of them would make quite a large calls. But what he would do is create really good relationships, and he would be really strong. And the appointments that he would get would always, 9 times out of 10, sell, because he took the time to really build a relationship. And the people like Adam are the ones that, are doing really well later down the line. Same as you, the same as me. Like, I don't think I ever really met, when I was on the phone, whilst it was, donkeys years ago, like I would never really, I probably would hit 20 calls per hour because I was a bit of a teacher's pet, but I wouldn't get the,
probably hit 40.
Yeah, I wouldn't get the most appointments for my clients, but the ones that I did would convert. And I've still got, like, my first client was actually a company called Into Events, and a guy called Gavin Farley, and we're still friends to this day. And like Gavin and I must have now known each other for like 17 years or something stupid, because I was the telemarketer, and I won him some really big accounts back in the day just by connecting him for a conversation. So yeah, I think that's what I'd look for. Right, last question before we wrap up. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about how we do lead generation on LinkedIn, what would that be?
I guess that's a really good question. I guess for me it would be, can I have 2 things? I guess it would be the receptiveness of it, I think. So people being a bit more open-minded and honest with themselves, that we're all trying to generate leads to some extent. Like we're all trying to promote or sell ourselves or products or services. But I think it's just about being respectful. I think that we do need to realize that, if you're going to try and pitch somebody, try and add value, like do research, and network. And if you're going to network, actually network, because networking is the, like, hey Jodie, I want to speak to you because I feel we could like help each other. And there's the key bit, is each other, not hey Jodie, I want to network with you because I want to sell you all my stuff. Like, if you're going to network with somebody, like find out things, like, and see and explore it together. So I guess probably honesty and just respectfulness of people's time, and doing it properly, which is a really vague thing. You probably need to get a whole nother session in on why doing it properly. Adding value.
I mean, I'd love for LinkedIn to almost find a way to stop kind of spray and pray. So like, there are people that do just plug in, I know it'd be impossible for them to do. There are people that just plug in, automation software. But if LinkedIn had maybe their own cadencing software or something, and you couldn't use a third party, and it didn't allow you to, send sales messages or something, that would be amazing. But
it'd be good if they put a character limit on the first message, so you didn't get a 14 paragraph message on the first one. That'd be great.
I bet you still get people saying buy my stuff ? Like, or something like that. They still find a way.
You would still get book a demo ?
Demo.
I think it, here's the unsubscribe link that also goes to the demo booking page. But I think it's something like that. I mean, I think you're going to struggle because it's mindset and perception. But if any, like, for all of the thousands of viewers we have, and the millions watching at home, like, just add value to people. Like, and if you can't add value to them, probably a good indication that you shouldn't be trying to pitch them because they're not the right person.
Yeah, it's all about getting the right education, isn't it?
100%.
Understanding. Well, I've had a lovely time talking with you and having a cup of tea today.
It's been lovely. I've not drunk much of my coffee. It's actually gone cold, so that was really good. But
that's
I've
because you've
enjoyed it.
been
It's been
talking
really
about
good.
loads of good stuff. Anyone watching
Absolutely.
this that would like to join me on one of these, please let me know. I've had a few conversations. I think I've got another one scheduled next week with Elaine Harding from Capillo, which I'm really looking forward to because Elaine is awesome, actually. And I know that's going to be a really good chat. But if anyone else is watching and they want to join me to talk about lead generation, then please do. But yeah, we'll see you all soon. And thanks for joining.
Cheers, Jodie.